welcome to the Zach Brown Show, the show that introduces you to old friends for the first time. I'm your host, Zach Brown. Joining me on this episode is my buddy Carlos Silva. We discuss growing up in Brazil, his early Disney influences, and building a cross-cultural audience. All that and more coming up. Handcrafted under sunshine and fireworks, Core Memory Candles brings a level of quality that honors the Disney scents that they capture. Now your home or office can smell just like some of your favorite attractions and resorts. Whether it's flying over the crystal clear waters of Fiji, sailing past a band of merry pirates, or stepping through the doors of the Great Ceremonial House, the Walt Disney World Resort is chock full of memorable smells that stay with you long after you've returned home. Fortunately, Core Memory Candles has found a way to capture those smells and will send them right to your front door. Also available in wax melts and fragrance oils. But wait, you can also get face mask and fabric refresher sprays. I've personally bought many different scents and I can't wait to try more. You can get yours at CoreMemoryCandles.com. Core Memory Candles. Breathe, be home. All right, Carlos, thank you so much for just taking some time out of your day to sit and talk with me.
It's always a pleasure, buddy. It's always good to talk to you. It's great. I'm happy.
So our listeners can quickly grasp that just from your accent that you're probably not from Kentucky.
No, I'm not from Kentucky. I'm living in the U.S. for the last 14 years. I'm originally from Brazil. I'm from the south part of Brazil, from a little state called Santa Catarina. Actually, my hometown is an island close to the mainland called Florianópolis, which is pretty famous in South America. Is already aware of Florianópolis because it's a nice place for summer. And that's where I come from. But I'm living here in Florida for the last 14 years. I became American. This is home for me. I'm home.
I love that. Now, so what for you? Like, what caused you to want to move to America from Brazil?
Because I was always American. And the truth is that the way that I was always a big fan of the country, of the lifestyle here, of the community sense, and that's why I wanted to, and I wanted that for my kids. That's one of the things that. So I plan. Everything we did was due to the fact that we had two young kids. When I moved here, Maria, my oldest, she was between 5 to 6, and Pedro was between 2 to 3. So everything was really planned, and it was a rough start in the beginning because always is difficult when you go away from your family, and we have a big family around us in Brazil. But since then it's great. It's great, and I'm really thankful to the way that we were received here. So I'm always thankful. And as I said, this is home for me. It was always.
Was moving to America something that even as a young man, as a child, was this a dream of yours, or was that something that kind of came out of you later in life?
Came out later. I think came out from the moment we had our kids. And I think that's said, one thing I think for them is probably the best, would be the best experience. I would not say that our original idea was to stay for life here. We were planning to stay for probably 5 years, but then we decided, no, this is the life we want for them. And actually, the life for us as when we get closer to what we call to the good age. So yeah. I'm still a little bit far from that, but I'm foreseeing that probably here is the best place. But I love Brazil. And I still have our family there, and there's a lot of things that we miss from there. But this is home. This is home, and I would not lie to you and hide that Disney has a strong connection to the reason that I'm here. I love Disney. I love the idea to be close to Disney. Even living in South Florida and living in Miami, for me, it's just a matter. If you ask me, Carlos, let's have lunch. For me, the turnpike is already part of my home, so I can take the turnpike and be really fast with you guys there.
I love that. So you said that Disney's a major part of it. Now, Disney in the 40s, they went on their Goodwill tour and went down to South America and they made Saludos Amigos and the Three Caballeros. Was that a part of your growing up, the Disney culture in Brazil, or had that kind of faded away?
No, yes, I think that there is a strong Disney culture in Brazil, and as a child in Brazil, there was a huge Disney presence for me. I vividly remember the Saturday afternoons. We used to have the World of Color being run in Brazil, even a long time after Walt's death, and also Disneyland, the TV show. So I was, for me, that was always present. The one thing that is pretty was always pretty strong in Brazil too were the cartoons, but how you call the magazines, the little magazines with Mickey and Donald, the
like comic books.
Comic books, yeah. Sorry, I was excuse the Brazilian. Yes, the comic books. So the whole culture of Disney comic books in Brazil was really, really strong. I don't know if that is still continuous, but is what they were one of the main comic books for us there. And even the special comic books. I remember this. There were special editions of for Donald and Mickey's special books for you if you want to go to go to the jungle or to want to travel. There were several different things there that I can still remember. There are probably, when it comes to comic books and to actually to the whole pop culture is pretty strong there.
So would you say that it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, would you say that it's more the Disney presence is stronger through those comic books, or is it big because of the movies, or maybe a mixture of both?
Mixture of both. Remember, by that time, when I'm saying that, it's my childhood was during the 70s. So I was born in 67. So, but my remembrance of that is during the 70s, and a particular period that Disney was not so strong on launching new movies, on developing, creating. So
right.
I remember some of the movies that some new movies or some big launch movie premieres that we had there by that time, but there were not so many. Remember which one? Robin Hood. I remember pretty well because there was this campaign of the characters were visiting, and I was from this little town in Brazil. Then suddenly you have Disney characters visiting your town. It was like, oh wow, it was something. I remember the Robin Hood characters visiting my school, the original Disney characters.
Wow, how
big
special!
Promotion, yeah. So that was amazing. The other things that later on we have the Rescuers. I also remember that launch a lot, but and it's funny because in Brazil, the movie Rescuers is the translation. The name in there is totally different. It's called Bernardo and Bianca, which are the names of the main characters. I remember that, but. During the 70s, the most of the Disney influence would come by comic books and the shows, the Disneyland and whatever color they were being rerun. Yeah. And there was, by the ends of the 70s, also there were the Mickey Mouse, the 70s version of the new Mickey Mouse Club.
Yeah.
Okay, that run there a little bit and paid and help in terms of influence there too.
So you're seeing this Disney influence. At this point, had you been out of the country? Had you left Brazil to travel to any of the Disney parks?
No. My first Disney trip was July 1980. Okay, I was already a teen, and that so I still have a vivid memory of that. And it was a different Disney trip because by that time was only Magic Kingdom, but that time was you get to what Disney was basically the Polynesian resort, the contemporary resort, the Fort Wilderness area there,
Mhm.
and Lake Buena Vista with the village. That's it.
Yeah.
And it was and I still pretty probably one of my main Disney moments is still from that very first day. I can remember pretty well.
Now, so okay, you'd seen the characters at school and the
Mm-hmm.
Robin Hood characters and whatever. Now, when you did make it to the Magic Kingdom, did you see those characters? Were they running around?
Yes, yes, and that actually was funny because one of the first characters that I saw, I remember, was Robin Hood, the Robin Hood, the fox.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and there were some, for instance, during the Main Street Electrical Parade, you have the prince, the lion prince there, I can't remember the name of the character now.
Prince John.
Prince John, yes, Prince John was in one of the floats playing the organ and thing. It was it's still as I said, pretty vivid, the whole impact that had.
Yeah, I mean, this thing that you've grown up with, that you've seen, that it's had your heart and your attention, and then finally, all these years later, getting to go and see that, how that would have just like really made it, that moment really cemented that this is all real. This is the place where these beloved characters, come to life.
Yeah, but Zach, that for me there was always, and I say to everybody, my devotion to Disney is pretty concentrated in the theme parks. And even when we do after hours and with everybody that we talk, I usually like to say I'm not a big Disney movie guy.
Okay.
And it is I follow, yes, I sometimes I watch, but I'm not that one that is geeky about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm geeky about the parks. And that came actually when I was really young, when actually I remember when Walt Disney World was opened, and there was a special in the Brazilian TV about the park, and that was 9 years before I got to see that for the first time. But I still remember that special. I still remember everything that I saw there. I was dreaming about being in the park. So the whole thing is, for me, was much more related to the theme park. And even nowadays, books and everything that I do in terms of research is about theme park, the attractions, and the whole thing within that boundary.
And I think that dreaming, that looking forward to going to that place is such a powerful thing. I think about being a little kid, and we lived only about 7 hours from Orlando, so it wasn't a big haul for us to drive down. But it was that, like you're saying, watching the specials, watching the movie, looking at the Burn Bombs guides, if people remember those, the different things that you remember. And then there's the magical thing when you drive onto property and you catch a glimpse of Spaceship Earth through the trees in the distance, or you see the Grand Floridian above the treetops as you're going down the road. I think, again, it starts jogging those memories, and it's almost more exciting than standing in front of them, kind of seeing them in the distance. It's those little previews, that little tease that gets you all excited for that place.
Yep.
It makes, it's still wonderful to stand in front of the castle, but there's something about it, seeing it in the distance. It just gets you so excited for the idea of seeing it. And I love how, like you're saying, it's not the movies, wasn't the comic books. It was those little glimpses of this place that you're hoping someday to go to.
Yep. And from that moment on, it was like crazy. So I start to, and actually the whole family got addicted to Disney, to traveling here. So so from the moment that I first went to Disney in 1980 to the moment I moved to US, in between there, probably there were like 50, 60 trips.
Wow. Okay. So that was going to be my next question, is how often did you return? So
every single year.
That's amazing.
And then later on, different times in the same year. So as we're for instance, we're approaching now to an anniversary of the of Animal Kingdom, Disney's Animal Kingdom. I was there for actually during the second week of the park. I was already
Oh,
there.
wow.
Yeah. So things like that. Epcot, the same thing. I was there for it was like 1 or 2 months from the opening. So it was crazy.
Yeah.
we became pretty big fans. But that's one thing that is important to mention about the international, and that's why sometimes we need to pay attention to the international travelers. We need to understand that for them, Brazilians, Argentinians, whatever, even people from Europe, it is always a long trip. It's always something from Brazil is like an overnight flight. You have an 8-hour flight. Then, but even before that, there's visas. The whole process of traveling involves a lot of. It is a complicated process that actually, and I'm it's not complaining. I'm just saying that helps to build up the anxiety and the expectation, and you're dreaming about the travel. So it's always. I know that a lot of people from Brazil, for instance, love the fact that start to enjoy the whole trip from the moment that they're traveling from home to the airport. Yeah. Even know that they're gonna be stuck in an airplane for the night, but they love that. They enjoy the trip.
Again, it's part of that buildup. It's you're moving forward. You're moving towards that thing. And so when you do, your whole thing is Ponto, Orlando, Ponto, Miami. Where did that come from? What in you said, I want to create this, for lack of a better term, cross-cultural, kind of media outlet? Where did that come from?
It all started with both of the profiles. It started with websites. So they both have their own websites, and actually almost like a blog, a necessity to write. And there's another thing. Most of the people of the Disney space are not aware of that, but in real life, I'm a real estate broker. So what happened is that a lot of people, clients or friends started to, from the moment they knew that we were living here, started to say, one thing, Carlos, why don't you help me? I need to find a hotel in Miami, or I need to find a restaurant in Orlando. I'm going to Disney. Can you help me just to sort it out, which are the best scheduling that I can do? So I said, one thing is to always start to write it down and have all those hints and all those advices in a blog. So when people ask me, I just say, one thing, go to visit my blog. And then you start to build up on that. From that, they went to the Facebook, to the Instagram and YouTube, and starting to do the live shows. And that became bigger than I was even planning. It started almost like by accident. But the thing is that I do separate profiles like the Ponto Miami and Ponto Orlando, because it's a different trip. The ones that go to Miami are seeking for a specific experience that is sometimes totally different from the one from Orlando. So that's why I needed to change. And actually, Ponto Orlando is, I would probably it would be much more close to the truth if I called Ponto Disney, because it's 80% about Disney.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of things that I try to bring from Orlando and from the region, but most of the time I'm writing about Disney and things that are the Disney experience.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. It's not trying to be, I really don't like when people call me content creator or influencer. I don't like those. I think that everybody is a content creator. Everybody is an influencer in some way. What I really do is I'm a promoter of experiences. I'm promoting experience here in South Florida and in Orlando. And what I do that is I try to use my own experience living here to enhance the experience of people that are visiting us. in my case, it's tailored and it's targeted to a Portuguese speaking audience. But that's what I try to do, and even in after hours, and which is a content that is purely in English with a totally different audience. What I'm trying to do is to bring my perspective and my experience in a way that will help to enhance the experience in a positive way for anyone that listens to us.
And I love that. I mean, I think the first time that you and I met, I believe we were at like a WDW radio meet or something like that. We were, I think, at the Japan Pavilion. And somebody goes, well, you haven't met Carlos? And I said, no, who is he? And you walked up and you were just all smile, as you normally are, lights up the room. And I walked up, I introduced myself, and they said, yeah, he does this, travel experience thing for Orlando and Miami. And I was blown away by that. I know it's a simple thing, but I thought he's not just sticking to this one thing. He's doing two different markets. And they said, yeah, he drives back and forth. I was like, that's insane. And then, like you said, with After Hours, your Thursday night Facebook show with Colin Kendall and Jason Knapp. I mean, again, it's in English. You're bridging those cultural gaps, and, you're speaking two different languages and engaging different cultures and backgrounds. I honestly think it's impressive. I applaud you. It's totally beyond me how you do it.
But what is great, Zach, is that the bridge with the American and what we English speaking audience, because actually we reach people in Canada and UK and in Australia. I was actually taking a closer look to the After Hours numbers, and I got to realize that Australia, we do have a fixed audience there. Wow! But it is that was easy. What really surprised me was when part of that audience started to show up in my Portuguese speaking show. Yeah. Tuesdays night. So, and I was blown away. That suddenly you start to see some friends from the After Hours showing up, and it's not that they show up to say hi. Most of them show up in the beginning, start to make comments, and the whole show they're there. I don't know how they do that, and I'm happy because probably it's always good to learn a different language and try to be exposed to a different culture is always great. But I don't know. They're probably I'm teaching Portuguese and I was not aware of that.
Well, I've said it's a credit to you as a person, your personality, your likableness, and I would say this if you weren't sitting in front of me virtually. But
I'll give you a hug, my friend.
You're such a likable individual, and that the fact that these English only most likely speaking people are tuning in to your Portuguese broadcast because they just can't get enough of what you're putting out, whether they can fully understand what's going on or they're kind of putting it together with context clues or maybe some of the graphics. And he's talking about, Mall at Millennia, or he's talking about, this restaurant just off of the turnpike, whatever it is. I think that is really cool. Again, you've somehow bridged this cultural gap. And I half jokingly said by the end of this, I feel like I'm going to be able to have some sort of understanding of Portuguese just from listening to these conversations, whether they're, Instagram stories or their Facebook lives. I'm blown away by that technology, that it's really bringing this world so much closer. And especially through this time that we've been going through in this pandemic, and people are forced to be apart, but through this media and this medium are able to grow closer together. And it's making, the mission of this podcast is the world that much smaller and that much more friendly. I think it's amazing.
And it's great because even to the other way, the Brazilian audience, and we're growing for instance, in After Hours, the show is in English, and we're growing our audience in Brazil. There's it's not that a good share of the Brazilian population speaks English, no, but English is part of our school classes, and there's a lot of people that already have a good start on that. But what we're seeing is that even in that show, the number growing. Brazilians already account for 20% of our audience in after hours.
Wow.
It was great. Yeah, and yet that's the other thing that is important to know is that nowadays we're in the time of the year that is easy for them in South America to watch it. That the time difference is not that big. Other times when we do not have the daylight saving time, it starts to get rougher.
Sure.
But also from our friends in UK, it is amazing to see for after our show, people from UK showing up live, making comments from the beginning to the end of the show, because for them is almost like they're doing that 3 a.m. in the morning.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, yeah.
And again, it's just the fact that these guys would stay up to all hours in the night just to sit and talk about, their favorite cue or lighting effect in the parks. And it's just this shared love of this space. Yeah. I think you guys have created a fun group with After Hours and what you have.
Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Sure, and we've all been there. You're standing 3 feet away from a lovely lass about to ask for a date, but you lose the nerve. Well, say goodbye to those weak knees and say hello to MacGuffin's Liquid Courage. Made in the bogs of Ireland, MacGuffin's Liquid Courage Irish whiskey is like having the Emerald Isle in a bottle. It's so authentic, you would swear you can smell the peat. Here's what some of our satisfied customers have to say. MacGuffin's ruined my marriage. MacGuffin's made me believe I could fly. Because of MacGuffins, I am no longer welcome at Rico's Corndog Castle. MacGuffin's Liquid Courage. Smell the peat. Smell it!
Tell me about how that came to be. Tell me about After Hours, like these 3 random guys who didn't know each other really before. What was the inception of that? How did that come to be?
I first met, I'm a big Lou Mongello fan, as we all are, mm-hmm. and he's a good friend. And actually, I went to his Momentum weekend in October 2019, and by the end of the first day, actually, they were planning to go. The whole Momentum group were planning to go out for dinner for something like that. But I was intending to do a video for Ponto Orlando at the Flying Fish Cafe in Disney Portugal. So I went to Lou and said, Lou, I will not go to join you in dinner, but join you on dinner. But I need to go to Flying Fish Cafe to do a video there. And he said, "Oh, go to the Flying Fish Cafe." I said, he said, "There's someone here that you need to meet because he's a huge Flying Fish Cafe fan." That's okay. And I said, and he grabbed me and he said, "Carlos, this is Jason. Jason, this is Carlos." I said, "Hi, nice to meet you, Jason." And we introduced him. And then I said, "Oh, Lou, I want me to talk with you because of the Flying Fish Cafe." Then he looked at me, "Just one thing, tomahawk steak." That's and the second thing, we have to do that together. Okay, it was like that.
That's
from
amazing.
That moment on, we became really close friends. And we started to exchange messages and things like that. And then I run into Colin in the same Momentum, but Colin was actually doing the presentations, and I had the opportunity to say hi and to exchange a few words with him, but not much of a contact. What happened is that Jason came to me that was October. By December, Jason said, "Carlos, we're planning to go to the Social Media Marketing World Summit." Was something like a event that was supposed to happen that happened in San Diego in February 2020. He said, "Do you want to join us there? Do you want to go there?" I said, "Yes." Then I said, "Definitely, I will go. If you guys go in, I'll go," because Lou is doing a presentation. Lisa Genotto Glassner is also going, and she also became a good friend. And I said, "Well, let's go in. Let's go." Then he said, "But one thing, why don't we go 3 days earlier? We go to Anaheim and spend 2 good days in the park." I said, "Let's do it."
Yeah.
And he said, Colin Kendall is probably going to join. I said, great. So I arrived in a.
Well, hold on a second. So you've only met this guy once before. You'd gone to a dinner, and then he says, "Hey, let's fly across the country and go to Disneyland."
Yes.
And you're like, "Let's go."
And actually, the whole trip was different. The original plan was to go to Anaheim, to be in San Diego for the summit for the social media marketing world, and after that, going to San Francisco for the Disney Museum, Disney Family Museum. And that was the original plan. So I got to Anaheim on a Thursday night. I know that Colin got the same day there, and we were supposed to first meet in the next morning in Disneyland. And Jason was supposed to arrive then that morning. So he said, "No, you're going to meet probably Colin there before I arrive." That's what I did. I sent a message to Colin. "Hey, Colin Kendall, that's me, Carlos Silva. I'm here at Main Street, USA. Where are you?" And he said, "Well, I'm actually leaving the Big Thunder Mountain. I just did some photos here. Let's meet in such and such place." I met him, and then the moment we met and started talking, we received a message that Jason was walking in Main Street Disneyland. So we said, "Well, let's go to meet Jason." We got to meet Jason. Zach, I will not kid you. It's like in 15 minutes, we were those guys that you see now in After Hours.
That's amazing.
And we were making fun to each other, and we had 2 amazing days in Disneyland. What happened is that the third day was the day that we made move from Anaheim. I drove them from Anaheim to San Francisco. To San Diego. We had the summit there. We met Lisa, Lou, the guys there. We were the whole summit. We were together, but during that period, we started to have the whole thing about the COVID starting to pick up, and I started to become worried about being stranded away from my family in the other coast.
Right.
And then I decided to cancel the San Francisco part of the trip. So Jason and Colin went to San Francisco, and I flew back to Florida. And then the COVID thing started. We were already, we had our group in Messenger, and so we were exchanging messages due to the lockdown every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It was a fun group. And one day, because I have my live show Tuesdays night, so I invited both Jason, Colin, Lisa, and also Lisa and Lou for a live show. They came to the live show, and it was fun. And right after that, Colin said, "You know one thing, I like that." And actually, Colin was the one that forced the whole idea. And I will not say forced, but he said, "Let's do that. Let's do a live show."
So we're going on the record to say that if anything goes wrong, it's Colin's fault. And if it all goes right, it's Colin's fault. But either way, Colin Kendall had his hand in this.
But then Jason said, "Yes, let's do it." And Jason said, "We have 2 weeks to prepare the show." It was 2 weeks in lockdown, so it's kind of easy. But
so you had plenty of time.
2 weeks to prepare the show, but we have that date to announce, and we have to run everything to get to that. So we came to with the name, with the logo, and we started to design the show in a way that is. And that is the benefit of Three Minds Together, because the whole idea of segments and the different segments they came up with, what's that sound, top 10, top 5, that it was used to be top 5, now it's top 3, but many different things that we started to think in that 2 weeks, and we came. It is totally different. We're going to the 45th episode now. If you go to the first one, the first one, you'll see the difference. But the basic concept was starting those 2 weeks. It was great.
I think, I mean, if you're telling me that you guys had really not hung out very much. You'd spent a couple of days. I've seen the pictures from, that those days at Disneyland. And I think if anybody just to come in off the street and look at those pictures of the three of you guys hanging out, you'd ask them, how long have they been friends? And they would say, oh, these guys have been friends for 10 years. You can just see their love and their camaraderie with one another. And to think that it had been like 15 minutes on Main Street turned into these 2 days of fun-filled memories. And now, we're almost a full year into a weekly broadcast, which is always silly and such lighthearted, clean fun, which the world needs so much more of. I remember when you guys first announced it and said, we're going to do this kind of late night show. And I was like, wow, is this going to be like, the dark side of Disney or something weird? And I watched it and I went, this is wonderful, because I had never met you. I mean, I met you once before, but it was just,
briefly. Yeah,
briefly. And I just said, he's this kind of fun-loving, goofy guy from Brazil. And then you got Jason, and then, like the young guy, Colin. It was this really just kind of random group, but you guys also complement each other very well. And I love it. Yeah.
And one thing is truth, Zach, that I already said that live on show, and I'll repeat every time I repeat I love the audience, our audience. I love everybody that watches. I had the privilege and the honor to have many good friends coming from that audience now. But the main reason that I do that show is the two guys.
Yeah,
they are really, really, really good friends. And so even, for instance, before we started recording, I said that I'm doing an extra work for the next episode. And it is because of the audience, yes, for sure. But it has a lot to do with I want those two guys to be really proud of the show that we're doing.
And I love that.
It's one thing that it's for me. It's really, really important. So and there are situations that we never had anything like that. But if there's one day that I know that I'm not okay, or Jason is not okay, or Colin. And that probably the three of us will say, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do that today, or we're not going to do the show, because we need that common vibe, and we need to be okay. And it's growing. And there's some shows that we said, it was not that good. But for instance, the last one, the 44th show, we had so much fun.
It was a fun show.
We had that's why I ended the show. I don't know if you remember, when by the end, I said, I looked at them and said, thank you, because it was a great time with them. And when we even were off the air, we're already just finishing the whole stuff, I said, buddies, thank you very much. It was a great time, because we really laughed. And there's several moments in the show that we can. That I pretty remember, close to my heart, that made me feel really, really well. It's good.
Well, I think people, if you just jump in and watch one episode, it's like you're getting a window into the three of you guys hanging out. It's like you guys are playing games with one another. You're razzing each other. You're poking fun out of, just out of love and brotherhood. And you're talking about this subject that you love, being Walt Disney World and the films and whatever. And we're all just kind of getting to be a part of it and kind of tossing in our 2 cents. It's like you have this peanut gallery, people are getting to watch, but you guys are clearly having such a good time with one another. And I think that's what makes the show work.
Yes. And that's another thing, Zach, that I think that is pretty important. For me as a Disney enthusiast, sometimes I catch myself watching part of the shows that even for the Disney content and the Disney experience, sometimes we hit it so well in the subject or in the content that there's memorable things that we did for the Disney experience itself. I would say shows like there's some things that and I will refer more to Jason and Colin than myself, because Colin has a perspective of the Disney experience that is pretty special. He's a good writer. He's someone that has a keen eye to Disney and to the experience with others. Jason is really good in details. So whenever he starts to zoom to a particular experience, he's going to get it to the whole and going to tell it the whole thing in a way that you're not going to lose anything of that experience. Whenever you go there, you're going to enjoy that. So there are several moments in our shows, and I usually when I assemble the shows, I try to bring that from everybody in a way that we're not going to lose that expertise. I already told many people. There's some really good YouTubers, really good video and YouTubers in the Disney space. My opinion is that Jason Knapp, when he does his shows, he lives the lunch breaks, particularly when he's walking in a particular space like a hotel, a resort, or even today in Fantasyland, that he gets that zoom detail view. Then he is brilliant. He's the best one, and I think that as video content is probably the supreme one now that people should pay attention to. There are other famous guys with big audiences, but they're not doing what Jason Knapp is doing. So that's one thing that I liked and I value a lot. The same thing with Colin. Colin is doing now a show, that interview show that he's doing on Monday nights. That is basically about your experience with Disney, the way that you relate to Disney.
Yeah,
and it is amazing. And he had Lou, the last show. It brought me to tears. So the one thing is that, yes, we cannot miss the vibe of the three of us having a lot of fun being together, but also bring in Disney content in a way that will impact the experience for even the experience for people that is already expert or even much more experts than us in Disney. That's the whole thing as well. I like that. There is we have people that we have audience friends that are for instance from UK that already been to Disney here in Florida for more than 50 times.
Wow.
And so if we're entertaining this audience, it's right, that probably we're doing something right.
And to your credit, Carlos, I mean, again, I love hearing your heart for your brothers in arms, for these guys that you're doing this with. You could have easily said, I run this thing and I've come up with these topics, these subjects and whatever, but you just spent the last however many minutes just loving on and giving kudos and affirmation to the other guys that you're doing with and just turning the spotlight on them. And I think that's such a beautiful sentiment. And again, just an example of the man of character and integrity that you are, just to be like, I'm helping out, but look at these guys here. I think that's beautiful.
But that's the whole thing. And we both of us are pretty good, huge fans of music, of rock. And I always say to everybody that whenever I went to see a concert, when it's a trio, it's always different. It's powerful. It's powerful. So that's the good thing about also the trio is that, and I like the idea of enjoying. For me, it's almost like serving in a good way of the word serving them in a way that we set a stage for them to shine, because I know that they're doing the same thing to me. Okay,
you guys are setting each other up.
Yes, we're raising the bar together, and and that's the amazing thing. It is that there's no ego at all. Sometimes we can, there could be disagreements or it's not about my idea. Sometimes it's usually about some other's idea. No, I said, no, I don't want to do this thing that I came up. And I said, no, we're going to do that. I love that. Okay. And that's the discussion. But It is great, and I said to a lot of people, and I repeat that it's the best thing that come out of this crazy year was After Hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when all is said and done, you, Carlos Silva, just, After Hours is over here and Ponto Orlando, Miami over here, your life, your whole upbringing, when all is said and done and you're to step away from this world, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Oh, it's to be useful. I think I'm from a generation that we were trained, teach to be the best, to beat others, and I think that doesn't work anymore. And I think that the whole thing is that what you're doing works nice for someone else. So if you're helping, if you're improving, if you're impacting in a way that it goes to a better place, we started to get with the whole technology thing. We started to get used with little clicks, okay, and you don't see if it's a little, it's a little key or it's a little button that you're clicking. You don't see if it's a beautiful one or not. You're just seeing if it's working. It's working for you or not. And I want to be a nice click. I want to be a nice click that it will work and it will help a lot of people. Needs to be everybody? No. If I'm helping a bunch of friends, I'm great. I really appreciate that. It's something that for me is that's the part. But I would not say a legacy, but it's just the way that I like to behave, and I like to teach my kids and my friends to do the same thing.
I love that. That's wonderful. And I expected nothing less from you. Carlos, how can our friends here with the Zach Brown Show, how can they follow you and take part in everything that you're doing?
They can, if they're from here, from US, or they're the English speaking audience, they can follow us in After Hours. And the best way to find us in After Hours is to go to Instagram, for instance, and just use the profile Go With Us Live. It's funny because our profile has nothing to do with the name of the show, but it's without an intent. We want to bring people with us to different places that in the future could be even outside the Disney space.
Love that.
But the idea is go to Go With Us Live, and you're gonna find our Instagram profile. Or just type After Hours Live and in the Facebook, and you're gonna hit our fun page there. And in Portuguese, I'm at Ponto Miami, and it's Ponto Miami, and Ponto Orlando, different profiles, but you can find me there too. And every Tuesday night, I do a live show in Portuguese that if people wants to at least learn Portuguese, they can see me there. It is fun too. Yeah.
Carlos, thank you so much. I have loved this conversation, and I love every time that I get to sit down and just hear your accent, see your beautiful smiling face, and get to spend time with you, my friend.
It's always good to be with you too, my friend. And I hope being in Orlando soon to give you a big hug.
I look forward to it.
Well, that's all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Once again, I'd like to thank our guest, Carlos Silva, for spending some time with us. Please be sure to check out everything Carlos is involved in by heading over to Instagram and following Ponto Orlando, Ponto Miami, and Go With Us Live. Also, be sure to tune into After Hours on Facebook every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern live. Want more of The Zach Brown Show? Check out the entire backlog of episodes on your favorite streaming service. You can follow on Instagram and give us a like on Facebook. I'll post behind-the-scenes pictures and updates on all the latest episodes. So like, follow, comment, and subscribe. And if you're enjoying the show, I'd very much appreciate it if you'd take a moment to leave a review in iTunes. They're very helpful in getting the show to more listeners. Also, they just make me feel good. So thanks for that. I'm Zach Brown, and I want you to remember, we all get the same amount of minutes in our day, so let's make them count. Have a good one.